Welcome back to the Bandit Man OC, your source for all things EMT. Today we're going over the EMT skill for oxygen administration by non-rebreather mask. I've got my fearless former student, Sean Goldschmidt, here to help out, and he's going to be acting through each part of this skill sheet. Remember, we're going off of the National Registry skill sheet, so always follow your local agency recommendations or policies and procedures on how to go through each step. What we are designing with all of these videos is a basic format to follow and practice with while you're at home, because as you all know, we're still in the middle of COVID. So we're going to get started. The very first thing that Sean is going to do is take or verbalize appropriate PPE precautions, which he would normally do by saying, I'm going to take my BSI precautions and observe for any kinds of dangerous things on scene. So I'm going to look for scene safety. Then I'm going to gather my equipment. So Sean's already done that. He has his non-rebreather mask. He has the oxygen regulator. He also has the oxygen tank, and that's a D tank, which is our standard tank for our gurney. And then we've got our simulated patient, which is our ventilation mannequin. Once we've got all of that, the very first step that we're going to take to ensure that all of our equipment is good to go is crack the valve on the oxygen tank. Depending on the make of your oxygen tank, you may have a device that's on top, like on the top of our tank here, or you may need to utilize an oxygen key. And those oxygen keys are made through a lot of different manufacturers, but they should always be plastic. And the biggest thing that we want to prevent here is any kind of reactive material with non-ferrous material. So we have to use the right equipment for the right job here. Now that we've gone ahead and cracked the valve on the oxygen tank, and just as a quick note, we don't have any oxygen in these tanks, so we're not going to see all the normal responses. It would normally be much louder. We would all be going deaf right now if that oxygen tank was loaded. So now that he's got that, he's going to apply the regulator to the oxygen tank. So as Sean does that, I'm going to remind everybody that the regulator that you're using on your tank should be one that's familiar to you. So you got to make sure that you know what your equipment looks like before you get out into the field. And frankly, this should all really be done before we get into the field at all. So take the time, learn your equipment, and then utilize it appropriately. You can see on the front, we have our regulator. We've got the gauge. We can see what's going on. So Sean's going to turn it around to him so that he can see what's going on. And you can see that Sean isn't taking his hands off the tank. He's got both hands on just in case this thing decides to take a tumble, because we don't want a giant oxygen tank missile. Now that he's got the regulator onto the tank, he's going to open the oxygen tank valve just like we did before, and that should cause the needle to bounce up. Ideally, on a brand new tank, we're going to see plus 2,000 PSI, but it kind of depends on the tank. It depends on if you're using a new tank versus a used or old tank, and it also depends on if you're getting these from the manufacturer or from a company, or if you are doing transfilling. So we should be seeing an operational PSI. Once he does that, he's going to be listening for leaks. Now, with these oxygen tanks, it really shouldn't be something that is so obvious that we're going deaf. That would normally be our indication that something is wrong, so we'll turn the tank off. But really, if you can't hear the leak, you probably won't be able to feel the leak either. Now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and lay the oxygen tank down, because it's time for us to apply oxygen to this patient, this simulated patient. So in the event that we don't have a case or a gurney with a mount, we'll just lay it down on the side, because the last thing that we want is that tank falling down and turning into a good old oxygen rocket, O2 rocket. So now that Sean's done that, he'll attach the non-rebreather mask to the correct port on the regulator. You can see here, it's got a metal protrusion. We usually call those the Christmas tree. He's got that securely placed on, and now with the tank all in place, we'll go ahead and turn on our oxygen tank to start flowing oxygen into the mask. Sean, what is our flow rate for non-rebreather masks?
We're going to go 10 to 15 liters per minute.
10 to 15 liters per minute. So to start, would it be fair to start at 10 liters per minute to fill the oxygen reservoir?
Yeah.
Perfect. And if this was a live tank, we would see that that oxygen reservoir bag was filling. Once we've got that, we're flowing at 10 liters per minute at a very minimum. We'll go ahead and attach that to our patient's face. You can see here, Sean is wrapping the cord around the back and then ensuring that the mask is the appropriate fit and bringing the strings in to make sure that it's nice and snug. Now, Sean did all of that and was able to show me all of those steps without going through any other process, without having me prompt at every step. He would achieve the full points available for this skill, which is 11. Sean also didn't fail in any place because he didn't commit any of the critical fail criteria, such as failing to verbalize his PPE precautions, failing to pre-fill the reservoir bag, failing to manage the patient as a competent EMT, and the other critical fail points that are available on your national registry sheets. Thank you very much for joining us today on our run-through of oxygen administration by non-rebreather mask. My name is Eric Johnson. I'm a Band-Aid Man OC. Thank you very much, and until next time, stay safe out there. Bye-bye.